What's up, guys, and welcome back to the infamous project. No DIY today, I am sorry, but instead something that might be just as interesting to you guys, and that is the 10 things that are wrong with the 1993 TIP-DECH Coupe. Sometimes us influencers or content creators, whatever the hell you want to call us, sometimes we get like a content creator block. And I just feel like despite all of the opportunity of content that I have in the shop, that sometimes I just kind of feel like I'm being repetitive, or I've already done it, or I've touched on it. And maybe you guys haven't seen it because I know I have a ton of videos out there, and sometimes there's a lot of interesting little things that I hide in those videos because there's really no way, unless I split them all up and started creating all these little videos. So if you guys have been following along, you'd know that we just recently almost finished up the 88 Cali Coupe here sitting behind me. It's looking good, it's sounding good. There's a few little other things that I want to do, like address the trim, and a few other little surprises that are going to be coming here in the near future. But the key word that I said in that last statement was, it's almost done. And it's sort of like the story of my life, is that no matter how many projects that I have, I feel like not one of them is ever 100% complete. They're always almost done, or there's always something else that can be done or modified or changed. And I think that that's what keeps the excitement to a lot of these projects are. I want to start with the 1993 TIP-DECH Coupe. And the reason why I'm starting with it is because, well, it's probably the #1 most represented vehicle that I have in my TIP collection, so to speak. Stalker Vert is probably a close second, but you know, when we're talking about 20,000 original miles, and the way that I talk about this car and the way that other people have spoken about this car, I want to reveal all the skeletons about it because it's not perfect. And there's things that still need to be done to this day that, I'm not gonna lie, maybe I'm procrastinating a little bit. So I think I can come up with 10 things. All right, so #1, and this is not in any particular order, but this one is one that just drives me nuts, especially with the old OCD, and it's in the back here, and maybe I'll get the camera a little bit closer, but when the car is aired down, which it is right now, there's a little bit of pressure that ends up going on the exhaust. It's most likely the exhaust slightly resting on one of the axle tubes, and then it's putting pressure against the pipe, and then the pipe's putting pressure against the rear detch skirt here, and just pushing that out a little bit. So as you guys can see here, there's a little bit of separation here from the rear skirt, from the bumper, and I would like to have that, you know, tucked right up against there. So there's #1. Ultimately, is it that bad? No, not really, but it's one of those things that is just going to be an absolute headache and going to take a lot of time to make sure that I don't chip or scratch or damage any paint. Probably have to take the two-way adhesive off and be really careful getting that mounted back on. So there's #1. So one other thing, this isn't going to be #2, this is going to add on to #1. We'll just call it paint defects or body kit defects. You can actually see right here, there's actually a little bit of a defect in the hood here. I think someone's touched this up. This was prior to my ownership. So we got a little issue there. And the way that this Dugan Racing Cobra Grill insert is installed, it's actually a little crooked. And you see, if I put some pressure on it like this, I could get it straight. So I'm gonna have to deal with the way that that's mounted, I think from the backside, and try and get that where it needs to be. So for #2, we're gonna go to the interior of the car here. Got a little bit of a light stick So hopefully I'll be able to share with you guys what's going on. So number 2, ashtray door. It's actually knocked out of place. I forget which one of my friends sat in the car, and of course they go to flick the ashtray door and they knocked it out of place. So ultimately that needs to get fixed. And to add on to that one, just in terms of little interior items, one of my knobs came off from my Recaro seats here, and that's the little spline or the plastic on the inside. It's cracked. So I'm gonna have to do maybe some plastic welding or some epoxying and get that knob back on there so I can do my adjustments. But there's number 2. All right, guys, so we're still in the car, and for number 3, it's actually gonna be the crystal and the gauge cluster. And I'm hoping that the camera can pick it up. But long story short, I was trying to get the car ready for a car show. This was actually when I was visiting Canada back in 2018, 2017. So the car just pretty much got wrapped up, and I was trying to get to a big car show at the Ford plant in Oakville, Ontario. And it was, man, we were getting up at, I think, like 6 o'clock the next morning. At least I got up at 6 o'clock the next morning because I actually did a feature on this car as the sun was coming up, because I was trying to get as much content as possible. And while I wanted the car to look complete for the show, so it was, man, it was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I was pulling the gauge cluster out so that I could put in my TIP-DECH silver face gauges. They look badass. I love them, but for whatever reason, I don't know how I missed this, and I'm not sure if the GoPro's picking it up, but I need to do some cleaning on the back side of the crystal here. I don't know if my finger caught it, and I didn't see it because it was so late at night. But that is one unfortunate thing that I need to get fixed, because it drives me nuts when I'm looking at the cluster. But otherwise, you know, you can see I got the ice blue LEDs in here and got the ice blue LEDs over here. So there you are for number 3, guys. Tagging along to that is actually going to be these A-pillar gauges. The only one that works is this boost gauge, and I don't even have a power adder, so all I'm ever looking at is vacuum. The water and oil temp, I don't have the senders hooked up yet. Again, I was in a rush, so got everything hooked up here. The wiring's all ready to go underneath the hood, but I haven't completed the install. For number 4, it's actually part of my power window and door lock conversion that I did on this thing. And for any of you guys that know me closely, you'd know that I absolutely hate not having power options. For anybody out there that is okay with manual windows, I do not know how you do it. There's nothing that I hate more than trying to reach over and crank this window down. I like having power door locks. I like having keyless entry. I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm spoiled, but that's just what I like. So when I did this power window and door lock conversion, everything turned out great. Got minty door panels and armrests that were just as nice as the ones that came out of this car, with the exception of one thing, and that's this little plate right here. And I'm not sure if the GoPro can pick this up, but you can actually see it's got like a gold tinge to it. I feel like somebody like clear coated this or painted it, or I don't know if it's some weird aftermarket one, but I need to get just a nice proper black one in mint shape to put here. The plastic around the edge is fine. It's just the actual faceplate is all jacked up and looks weird, kind of being copper, right? All right, so welcome to the engine bay of the TIP-DECH Coupe, and apologies as it is a little bit dusty, but everything is together for the most part in here. However, the summer that the car got all put back together, or maybe it was the summer before, can't 100% remember, but a good friend of mine was driving the car and it died on him just randomly out of nowhere. And first thing that you would think is a TFI module, which ended up getting replaced, which I think I'm going to put the original Motorcraft one back on, just so that I have the original piece on there and not the aftermarket one. So needless to say, that wasn't actually the problem. The problem that happened is this guy down here. So this Excel 300 Plus racing ignition box actually just died out of nowhere randomly. So he ended up bypassing the box, and you can see how stretched this coil wire is over to the coil here that was relocated due to the strut tower brace. So what I want to do is actually I need to remove this plate, remove this Excel ignition, which no longer works, and I'll probably see about mounting the coil back over there, or maybe just getting it a little bit lower. And I'm contemplating putting the battery back up here as well. Not a huge fan of batteries in the trunk. I'm not a race car. However, we'll see how I feel. But I want to clean this area up, clean up some of this wiring. You can see I do have a line lock there as well. And this guy actually needs to be bolted down better because it's pretty loose. Otherwise, I'm happy with everything else underneath here. Can maybe upgrade to a 3-core radiator at some point. But that does it for item number 5. So for number 6, it's actually something that you can't see, and it isn't easy for me to get the camera on. And that is the fact that the e-brake cables are actually not connected currently. So I did have them hooked up, and for whatever reason, they were sticking, and I ended up just unhooking them. And I think they're under there, just kind of zip tied up out of the way, because I do have this full SSBC upgraded brake kit here. You can see I got some monster rotors and calipers in the back here. So the cables are there, and I think I was trying to reuse the ones because I had the other SSBC kit before that was just like your standard, I guess it'd be like T-Bird rear caliper or whatever it might be, and I wanted something bigger. And when I went to these, there's something with those cables that I really just need to take a little bit of time and go over it and see what the issue is, but no e-brakes. All right, number 7. This one I'm truly embarrassed about because I have not shown anybody the trunk of this car, because this trunk is not finished in any way, shape, or form. All right, guys, here it is. This is just pure embarrassment, but it is what it is. Sometimes we get sidetracked. Sometimes we have different priorities in terms of our projects and what we want to do. But here's the trunk of the car, and you can see it looks a little bit like a basket case. Things are just kind of stationed where they need to be. The battery is secured down here, but we do have some wires going off in every which direction because, well, we got the stereo and we got the air ride tank and all of the controllers and valves, solenoids, all of those things on the back of the air tank here. So the reason why I never address this is simple. I kind of always thought that I would upgrade to the pancake tank that actually goes in your spare tire wheel well. And that way it just kind of, instead of having a spare, you got an air tank in there that fits and looks the part. So that way it doesn't even look like you have an air tank. So that's what I was wanting to do. The other reason for this is that ultimately I wanted to upgrade the air management as well. So I just have the basic analog switches and dials that are in the center console armrest of the car. And maybe, you know what, I'll do a video on some air ride stuff. Might be worth it when and if I upgrade the air management and do all that stuff. But that is one reason why this is just sitting here. So I've got this, and then I've got the amplifier, which is a 5-channel amp. I got the crossovers that are going up to the front, and nothing is really mounted because I never had the time to be able to focus and address this. And I didn't want to put screws and things, and didn't want to commit to anything that I knew that was only short term. So the only thing that's committed in here is in fact the battery. So that is number 7 on the list. Again, probably the most embarrassing thing that I've had to share with you guys or share publicly, but there you have it. There's the trunk of the TIP-DECH Coupe. The other thing that I didn't note was the fact that the subwoofer is missing, because that's the other thing. I want to do a custom enclosure. I actually have the proper Sony sub sitting up on the shelf way back there. So if you guys haven't figured it out yet, I'm actually a Sony diehard when it comes to car audio, cell phones, just anything in general, my TVs. So just call me brand loyal. If you don't like Sony, well, at least we got Foxbodies in common because, well, you're still watching this video. So with that said, I need to get the sub hooked up. The amp is an amazing amp, and in terms of the head unit, It is top of the line. Again, all of this stuff is in the top tier of Sony products, and I just want to make sure that I can get the right enclosure for the sub and get that all tied up. But there you go. For number 8, the trunk and stereo, we'll just bundle that all together. All right, for number 9. Number 9 is related to the rear end again, and I alluded to this in one of the videos when I was putting the DECH number 5 car back together. And it's this piece right here. So in the back of this car, I've actually got an ultra rare DECH ASG unit, which stands for Advanced Suspension Geometry, which is pretty much like a Watts link setup that bolts up to your upper rear frame rails and then goes down and ultimately bolts up to kind of your lower shock mount area, which this car also has the DECH grabbers, which repositions the lower control arms. But one of the main pieces to this whole system is actually this bar right here. And in the DECH number 5 video, I alluded to what needs to happen because this was designed to go in an SN95 car. So this whole bracket here actually needs to get chopped off, and I just need to drill a hole right through here that'll ultimately go up right into the upper rear frame rail. Actually, I need to weld a nut on and then bolt the put the bolt into the nut up on the upper frame rail, and then this guy will go into the top portion of the ASG. So if you guys are interested to see more of exactly what I'm talking about, you can check out that DECH number 5 video where I explain this, and you'll see how that system works. All right, so now for number 10. Last but not least, and I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate to this, I'm actually going to start the car up. Well, hopefully it starts. So let's see if it'll start up. I'll share with you guys number 10. So you can't really hear it. I thought you'd be able to, but you can't. I guess more when you're driving you do. I have a nasty exhaust leak on this side, and it's super annoying. So it's one of those things that, you know, I've tightened all the header bolts up, but I'm pretty sure it's at the collector where it meets the X pipe, and maybe things got knocked around from maybe the X pipe getting caught on something when I was driving really low to the ground. But that's number 10. So let me switch the car off so I don't die of carbon monoxide, and we'll wrap this video up. All right, guys, there you have it. The 10 things that are wrong with the 1993 TIP-DECH Coupe. I hope that you guys enjoyed the transparency, because I know that I'm not the only one out there that it appears that I have the perfect car, but in reality, there's still things that need to be corrected, things that still need to be fixed and wrapped up and tidied up. Sort of like sometimes some of those SEMA builds, you know, everything looks so great on the outside, but it's the things that you can't see or that are hidden in the trunk or anywhere else that there's always something, guys. And part of me, I know I leave these things on purpose because that way I feel like the car isn't just done and then is boring and then it's tucked over there. You know, so that way when I get time, I can put away and try and correct and do things. And, you know, you think that that's not that much or that big of a list, let me tell you, this car right here, man, I could probably give you 50 things that are wrong with this car. This car looks phenomenal and badass and sounds angry and mean and vicious, and I love this car, but I love to hate this car. And I've said that on a few different videos, but it's just the reality of things, guys. And I think that us as enthusiasts, sometimes we just want our projects to live on and keep going. And sometimes, even if the thing was 100% done and finished, we'll just go ahead and change something up randomly anyways. And that's just kind of part of the deal as being car guys or car nuts. There you guys have it. Thank you again for all your support and following along this far. And we'll see you guys next time here on the Infamous Project.